Welcome to the Neurodesign Lab that we have created with Dr. Tobias Klein. We would like to present today something which is very specific we do here. Just imagine what happened 35,000 years ago when people started designing, drawing nature around them. They have been doing that for 35,000 years, representing the world we see. What they couldn't really do is what we don't see. What is we don't see is what is not in front of us, what is inside us. So what is really difficult is to imagine how to represent things that exist in the human brain. And this is what we try to do in this lab. We try to figure out what is the shape of things that exist only in the human brain. And I'm talking more specifically about human abstractions, which is human values that exist only in our brain and make sense only for us in our relation to others. So we have been trying to figure out how to get this information from the brain using tools like EEG, electroencephalography, and brain-computer interface. And how these brain waves, electric waves coming from the brain, can be used to control or even assess and shape, generated shape that is on the screen and become something else afterward. So, the original project is the Brain Factory. The Brain Factory where we use the brain with brain workers to create specific shapes and to give shapes to human abstractions. So as you can see, we use this EEG headset, and then in different situations, mostly during exhibitions and shows, we give the opportunity to the visitors to proceed to giving shape to human abstractions. And so usually at the beginning of the process, you are given a word, a keyword. And this keyword will be guiding you in orienting the evolution of the shape. So in a way, we are talking about what we used to call artificial life. That means this life has to survive in an ecosystem which is our brain. Like natural life has to survive in an ecosystem which is called nature. So nature is not designing living beings. Nature is just assessing if living beings can survive. At the end of the process, as you will see, we get a QR code. And at the same time, the shape we have created, the shape we have given to a certain value, becoming registered on the blockchain. So it becomes an NFT, as we say. So you can immediately start trading them, buying, selling, swapping. And if you decide to swap, for example, happiness 740 with 2 or 3 other values, then you are making a statement. This is what we call transactional poetry. Transactional poetry is a generated statement that comes from the transaction. For example, you give a happiness to get art, it generates what you see now. Purity to get trust, you have to choose. Purity at dawn, respect at dusk, and now pleasure. If you give money to get love, it may become something like you always need more money to find love. So that's the transactional poetry, which is based on the transactions. And the transactions allow something else that was never done before, is the ranking of values at the world level. So we know what is the ranking of values for you, for a city, for a country, for a continent. In parallel, a scientist is building the periodic table of values. How to organize the values according to how people collect them. Is power closer to money and tenderness closer to family? We can also use our tool to give shape to something that could be ink painted words. And the reader is doing its best to interpret the shapes according, for example, to Chinese characters. It can be Korean characters. And trying to figure out what is a hidden meaning behind the value and the shape you have given to the value. The interpreter is trying to use these different words to see if in history of philosophy somebody said something interesting, connecting these words and making sense. The reification is a very important process. The token is an abstraction, a 3D model. This 3D model can be converted into objects. And you can make ink drawings, fashion design, installation art. And for example, you can give this shape to purity using the volume created thanks to the Unreal Engine. And you can see that here, freedom made of marble, democracy made of honeycomb. And here you see the big reificator that will convert the shape, the abstractions into concrete, printing with concrete human souls. And so people can start speculating on values. Now we're going to ask Wan Chao, one of our visitors and contributors, to do this full process by putting on the EEG headset, which has been designed by Tobias Klein. Okay, so now Wan Chao is watching the screen and trying to figure out what will be the value he will have to design and how to orient the evolution of this value in a way that it will take a meaningful shape. It's not starting from nothing. Start with intelligence. It's made of particles, it's generated in real time, and these particles are inherited from previous brain workers that were actually working on the same value. So brain workers working on intelligence gave shapes that oriented what Wan Chao is discovering now. And step by step, here you see its pace, is trying to make this thing evolve in something that makes more sense for him in terms of intelligence. Of course, this can be interpreted differently by other people, and in his mind, it's probably an evolution that makes a specific sense. You see, for example, separated elements that try to connect to each other. You can imagine that connecting separated elements is trying to make sense out of their connection and trying to find similarities and correspondence. This is one of the processes intelligence is trying to achieve and complete. And so it's constantly fighting. It's like a brain juice in motion. And this is the idea. The idea is not to create the Statue of Liberty to express liberty. It's not to create something looking like the physical world, but to stay at the level of abstractions. So it's an abstractions representing human abstractions. It's abstractions representing more specifically here human values. And you can see we are in a constant hesitation between many possible evolution that make this virtual model taking something that make more sense for more people. We have created so far more than 32,000 tokens during the different shows we have done. And you can see in the database, most of the tokens we have recorded. So there are different values. So strength, success, security, sex, respect, purity, privacy, power, and so on. For each of them, of course, we created thousands of models. And these models are made of particles. So what the owner of the token, the NFT token, gets is actually this model made of point cloud that will be then converted into a mesh that can be used on any software. So that's an interesting thing, an OBJ file. And here we can see the DNA of concept. This DNA is a series of descriptors that represent the shape we see here. It's 10 descriptors, and in the process of creating the model, the brain worker has been going through all the descriptors one after each other. The brain reacting in a way to say, yes, this evolution is good. Oh, no, please, don't do that. This has nothing to do with intelligence. Oh, yes, good, love is like that. So this is what happens in the brain. We are not trying to find an image in the brain. We can't. I am not sure that anybody really can. We just want to know if, like nature, we can assess, can this living being survive in our brain ecosystem? And so this is what we experience. Here you see privacy, you see other possible model, and you see that we have hundreds of models like that. Another privacy one. So we cannot say that one token is really the result of the experience of one person. It's a result of the experience of all the brain workers that have been working before. But each brain worker gets a free token and gives a token to the previous one that provided the inherited DNA. Now, what makes sense beyond the process of creating models, more than creating image, is the fact that the anonymous data are collected on the website. So vov.art or v-o-v.io allows you to see the last token that have been created, to see the transactional poetry related to the last transactions. Of course, you can see the models has been created, you see where it has been created, and you see how much people are ready to sell their token for. And so this allows you to see what is ranking of the values. So here it seems that the most expensive token somebody asked for is 100,000 US dollar for freedom. The second one is sex, love, wisdom, fame, family. And so for sex, it's 1,000. For love, it's 400. This ranking is not coming from preconceived ideas about these values. And here, very interesting, you see the all-time evolution of the values. The red one is a medium value. First is fame, surprisingly. Second is love. Third is openness. But if I look carefully to love, I discover that somebody asked for 400 and another one for 0.1. So the average, of course, goes very low because somebody just asked 0.1. But we can see some goes over the top. Another interesting thing is when we compare cities and when we can see what is the ranking of values according to the cities. So for example, if I take Taipei and Guangzhou, where we had also a big show, we see that in Taipei, the number one value is sex, second is love, third is compassion. And then you have openness, intelligence, purity, loyalty, truth, anarchy, art, faith. That's interesting collection. That's Taipei. In Guangzhou, the first one is freedom, second sex, third money. It seems that the interest for sex is kind of universal. And so we have first freedom, sex, money, then fame, family, purity, democracy, compassion, autonomy, peace, pleasure, trust, respect. Then you see here that the token is sent to the blockchain. It's knowledge 820. And so we get a QR code from the printer. And with the QR code, you can immediately scan it. it creates a specific token in your wallet that you can get on the website for free. This is a full NFT platform which is working in a totally autonomous way. And now I'm going to show you different exhibitions we have done where we had pretend the project and to have brain workers. So this is a Brain Cloud project, which is coming as an extension of the Brain Factory project. Here it was in June 2019, when in Seoul, at Center Nabi, we invited the media to attend the IVO, the initial value offering. And then we started minting the very first tokens. That was a very moving moment. As you can see, it's 2 years ago. It's not a project that started with a frenzy for the NFTs. This was in Guangzhou. This is now in Macerata, Italy, for the Bao's 100 exhibition. So it's interesting to change with very different culture. And this was a MoCA Taipei exhibition, so the Museum of Contemporary Art in Taipei. And you see we had 3 neurodesign stations. We projected the values, and we projected also transactional poetry. So this is called transactional art because it uses the blockchain as a medium, not as a platform to sell, which is also possible, but as a medium to produce art. Now, very important thing is the reification thing, the conversion of the abstractions, the abstract token into an object. And it will become a 2D, for example, which is a 2D picture, a 3D, a sculpture, or anything we have been mentioning before. So I give you some examples from my own collection. So this is a model coming from the VOV Art 622, and I decided to make a collection of images that would orient the reading of the work. This is Beauty. This is Democracy 443. This is Fame 572. This is Compassion 663. Very successful, this one, I can tell you. This is Anarchy Flying Over Trust. This one will become the cover of a book. This is Family 665. This is Freedom. As you can see, there is no direct analogy between the shape and the value, but we can project the reading. And here we understand probably why this is friendship. There are so many things we could say about that. And Equality 573. And of course, you could also enjoy Happiness 743. The way to look at it, the way to interpret by lighting, by texture, by orientation, you understand that the meaning is in the eye of the onlooker. Honesty, humor, I think very mirror-like. I like this one, it's Intelligence 673. There is something so strong that we couldn't have designed that. It's just something coming from the unexpected and from the experience of people. This is justice. I think there is something true here, and I'm totally unable to say why, but it's true. This is power. It's not only goldish, but it's bullying, you know, going forward. And for me, it makes sense. And so this is knowledge, kindness, money, anarchy. This is my interpretations of sex. Now I think we have a clear vision of the Value of Values project and Brain Factory project. Thank you.